we'll start with the biggest news internationally of the day in the UK, where Rishi Sunak is set to become Britain's next prime minister.
Yeah, that's right. Sunak was named the new leader of the Conservative Party earlier today, a decision that comes 4 days after Liz Truss announced she was resigning after just 6 weeks in office. Sunak will be a historic figure, first person of color to become prime minister of the UK, first person without a Christian background, worked at a hedge fund, worked for Goldman Sachs, was a member of the British Parliament in 2015, and most recently served as the kingdom's chief finance minister. Then, over the summer, he campaigned for the prime minister's position, promising to cut taxes and help British households push back the rising cost of living. Truss won, but Sunak seems to be rising in the end. He's now preparing to move into 10 Downing Street, where he shouldn't get too comfortable because the economic turmoil in the UK continues. There's also a growing divide within his own party. For more on all of it, let's go to CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab. He's in London covering the latest, and he joins us now. Rishi Sunak, historic on multiple fronts, and he brings a different set of ideas than the outgoing prime minister. How big of a deal is his rise to power?
Huge, historic, seismic, all the things you want to throw at it. I mean, really, the tumble dryer that has been UK politics continues to tumble. And what this tumble dryer has spit out is Rishi Sunak. And we have to remember that this didn't go to the Conservative Party to vote. This was really just MPs deciding. So when he and Liz Truss were fighting for the top job over the summer, it really went to the Conservative Party, which really is only about 150 some odd thousand people who then decided who'd be the prime minister of the country. Now it's just gone to members of parliament, and we understand he had around 189. So really 189 people decided that Rishi Sunak is the man. And what a man, as you rightly said, an extraordinary biography. Here he is, born in 1980. He'll be the youngest prime minister Britain has seen in over 200 years. He is the son of Indian immigrants of East African origin. His mother ran a successful chain of pharmacies. His father was a GP, and they paid for him to go to one of Britain's top schools, top boarding schools, Winchester College. And Rishi Sunak, while, very good academically, went to Oxford, did very well there, went to Stanford University. That's where he met his wife, who happens to be the daughter of an Indian billionaire. And so he's also the wealthiest MP as well, worth close to around $1 billion. And so there's a lot of Rishi's biography here, which is interesting and fascinating, but it really intersects with some of the headwinds that Britain is facing, which is this huge economic challenge that he will have to fix as prime minister. And because of his background, most notably his wealth, some are questioning whether he is the right man to really understand how average folks are going to cope with this high cost of living, the fact that energy bills are soaring, and it's up to him to solve all of this.
I mean, and Imtiaz, you just mentioned, he himself called it a profound economic challenge what the UK faces right now. Of course, he has an incredible bio. He has a great experience, even though he's so young. But what would you say is that challenge that he needs to tackle immediately so he doesn't become the next one out the door?
Exactly, right? Liz Truss lasted 6 weeks. It's mind-boggling that this country's had 3 prime ministers in 3 months. Just wrap your head around that. This country really since 2016 has just been really going from political crises to political crises. 2016, of course, the Brexit referendum, and there's just been so much political turmoil, and all of it really at the heart of the Conservative government, which has this huge majority because Boris Johnson won that huge majority. He, of course, resigned in shame because of the Partygate scandal and many, many other scandals. And then Liz Truss with what was described as a mini budget, which spooked the market, saw the pound crash, saw interest rates go through the roof. And now here we have Rishi Sunak, who called those promises that Liz Truss made during her campaign that she was going to do all of these things, cut all these taxes, do all this stuff. He called it fairy tale economics. So a lot of people are saying that Rishi Sunak is the man. He's going to be able to fix all of these problems. But as well, these huge problems in the country, he has to fix the problems within his own party, the Conservative Party, which, again, has been in power for 12 years since David Cameron in 2010. And so here we are 12 years later, and this party is really just tearing itself apart. And Rishi Sunak, again, just has these huge things that he needs to solve. And most crucially, he needs to fix the economy. But how do you fix the economy when it's a global economy that is struggling? And that's really something that Rishi Sunak has to figure out.
So, Imtiaz, politics is about ideas and solutions, how you implement them, but it's also about the person, how they relate to the people they're representing. And if there's a knock on Sunak, it's that his wealth and success put him out of touch of the average British citizen. He and his wife are among the 250 wealthiest people in the United UK, according to the Times of London. An estimate in The Guardian puts the fortune at 730 million. So not a billionaire. He's got that, he could say.
At least.
Just shy of a billion.
You know, when other people are choosing between eating and heating, that's a lot of money. And it's an obstacle, I would say, to some extent.
It is. And if you look at how Rishi Sunak lives, we understand that he has about 4 homes. Some suggest he may have up to 7. He has a place in Santa Monica. This is a man who is doing pretty well for himself. In fact, if you look at his home in North Yorkshire, where his constituency, where he was elected, I was reading one of the newspapers today that his swimming pool alone costs £14,000 a year to heat. £14,000. And when your average Brit is looking at energy bills going, and this is a very real issue in this country, I have to choose between heating my home and feeding my family. These are very serious headwinds. And if we look at the history of the Conservative Party, when we do have these economic problems, what do? They go towards cutting government spending, cutting social services. And so for that to come from, yes, this transformative politician in the sense that we now have a person of color, and that is something that's a very important thing to think about and to meditate, especially considering Britain, empire, history, the fact that he's Indian, which of course was part of the empire, to now be at this top seat. That is extraordinarily important, but the real impact on people's day-to-day lives are the decisions he's going to make economically for them as Prime Minister. And the question for him is he somebody who can truly understand what it means for your average working Brit? And the short answer is many people just don't believe he can. And we've kind of seen it over and over again, where he's been seen in sort of very deprived parts of the UK wearing Prada loafers. We've seen him in interviews when he was much younger, where he said, you know, I have lots of friends. I have upper class friends, middle class friends, working class friends. Actually, no, I don't have any working class friends.
No.
And that sort of stuff kind of haunts him and will follow him around. And so, as you see, Tony, politics is about ideas and it's about connecting with people. And there is a concern that Rishi may not connect with people in the way that he needs to in this extraordinary time, not just for Britain, but for the world as well.
Boris Johnson was every bit as fancily educated and upper class, but he didn't play the part. He resonated.
Well, you know, I can think of at least another world leader who, you know, is incredibly rich and connected with working class voters over here. We're about to talk about
Trump
him.
did it. He did. So it's not impossible.
Imtiaz, it's good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.